The bank might not have $25,000 in it. It might have something different than that in the bank. Why? Because there's outstanding checks that we knew about, but the bank didn't know about. We properly recorded them. The bank doesn't know about them. That's what happens in a bank reconciliation. We reconcile, account for that difference. So that means when we put our stuff on the books, this $25,000 doesn't represent what's actually in the bank according to the bank records, but hopefully is more accurate because we know about stuff the bank does not yet know about, the outstanding checks. That means that when I reconcile, however, I'm going to need to know what those outstanding checks are, and they're not in this accounting system. They're in the prior accounting system. So that's going to be a mess, but it's not a mess yet. That'll come about when we do the bank reconciliation. So we might talk about that later. So we have to put it on the books for $25,000, even if the bank said like $30,000. Why? Because I need my retained earnings to be the same. I have to put it on the books for what it was on the books as of the end of last year, which we imagine that we closed out, possibly made our tax return from and whatnot. And if there's errors or mistakes in it, I want to make them in the current period going forward, not adjusting the prior periods, which hopefully are already closed. We're saying goodbye to the prior period. I'm not going back to that accounting system unless I get audited or something like that. We're moving forward, making corrections going forward. Hopefully, ideally, that's the idea. Okay, so if I go back on over here, we're going to say this is going to be $25,000. So putting it on the books is straightforward then. We could just say this is going to be equal to $25,000 here. Now, if you did this in accounting software, what's the form that would increase the checking account? By the way, I'm going to freeze the panes so we can see it a little bit better. Putting my cursor, I'm scrolled all the way up. I'm putting my cursor between on cell A4 and then go into the view tab and freeze panes and then freeze the panes so that when I scroll down, the headers are still there and you can still see the headers. Now, what's the form that would be used? Usually a check form. Remember, in the check form is a data input form for accounting software, not necessarily meaning that you wrote a check. Sometimes it might be called an expense